Welcome into episode 496 of the Skate Podcast. I'm Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin. Bridget and Scott, the Bruins found a way to come back not once, not twice, but 3 times during their game against the New York Islanders, and were able to get the shootout victory 4-3. Good times keep rolling.
Yeah, four straight wins. Over 500 again for the first time since they were 3-2. Now 8-7-0 in the season. I know we're going to get into on our opening shifts, but some young guys stepping up. Sturm continues to press some right buttons, some changes in the third period that proved critical. And yet this was a really interesting game to me because the Islanders are kind of like right in the same spot that you are. And these are the kind of teams where it's like, all right, if you beat them, then you feel like you're maybe more in the mix. You're beating teams like around you in the standings. And if you lose to them, then it's like, man, like you can't even beat that team. Well, they've now beat the Islanders twice. And going in, it was funny. I was looking at like Natural Stat Trick, which has like, a lot of the analytics, advanced stats. Before games, they have like previews where it just pulls up like both teams, all their advanced stats and stuff, and you can just kind of scroll through and compare them side by side. And going in, it was like, wow, these are two teams that look remarkably similar, like in terms of scoring chances for and against, high danger chances for and against, even down to like shooting percentage, save percentage. It was like almost mirror images, and the game felt that way. A pretty, I'm gonna say uneventful first period, but I think that was a good thing for the Bruins being the road team. Held the Islanders to 3 shots, went like 10 minutes before the Islanders got a single shot on goal. And then the game really opened up and became pretty entertaining, back and forth a bit. Maybe probably a little more wide open than either coach would want, but ends up, with the Bruins coming back in the third period to force overtime and then get to the shootout. First time they've been in a shootout this year, and Khusnutdinov scores the lone goal. Jeremy Swayman goes 3-3 in the shootout. So ends up being, I think a pretty big win now as the Bruins go into, as we highlighted on the last podcast, a really important stretch of division games here with Ottawa twice, Toronto twice coming up, Montreal in a week and a half. And all of a sudden, Bruins are setting up pretty nicely, hitting this stretch.
You know what I think? I think the Bruins' secret weapon has just been absolutely, running rampant over the last 3 games since he was put on the first line. And you can see the confidence. And Marat Khusnutdinov is my opening shift, of course, because he scores the game-tying goal, makes it 3-3. Nice backhand drive to the net. And we can talk about the line mix-ups that were happening in the third period, but he was playing on a line with David Pastrnak and Fraser Minten. And just not a combination I think any of us would have drawn up at the beginning of the season. But he's on that line. 2 young guys with Pastrnak. I think that's probably what a lot of our listeners probably watched that and were ecstatic because they tend to like when the young guys get a look. And, anytime you play with Pastrnak it's normally a privilege. So anyway, Khusnutdinov ends up getting the game tying goal 3-3. Then they start the shootout, and I'm like, oh, who are they sending? Well, they got to send Pastrnak, right? Like that's like the given. They'll send Pastrnak. Nope, they throw Casey Mittelstadt over first, and then they throw Khusnutdinov over. And I'm guessing like that had to be his first shootout attempt, right? Was that his first shootout attempt?
Yep, it was.
So that does kind of make you a little bit of a secret weapon because the only guys that really know what you're planning on doing is probably your own goalies that you practice against. So like maybe the thought being like everyone knows Pasta's moves, but they've never seen Marat's moves. And now we know because in the post game he told us what he was looking for, which was the shoulder shake. and that's all he did.
Fake shoulder shake.
Fake shoulder shake. And so his English is limited, but he could say that, which I was like, all right, he got that out. But yeah, he's been playing great. He's got 2 goals in the last 3 games plus the shootout goal, which doesn't count towards the stats, but just, it was important in getting the extra point towards the standings. And you plug him in on the first line and things have looked good. And I guess what do you do now with the first line? I think he stays on it, right? And then I don't think Minten will end up staying there for an extended period of time. I think that was just like a, hey, we really need a goal. Let's try something different kind of situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just pick that up because my opening shift is about Fraser Minten, who is the other kid that Marco Sturm showed trust in that third period. He shortened the bench, as Bridget mentioned, change up the lines, puts Minten between Pasternak and Khusnutdinov. And, Fraser Minten was never healthy scratched like Khusnutdinov was. But remember, just, not even 2 weeks ago, there was that stretch where we were talking about, Fraser Minten's minutes are way down. Twice in 3 games, he was under 10 minutes of ice time, lowest on the team, and he had gone 8 games without a point. And we were wondering, like, boy, I wonder if this even might be setting up, him going down to Providence for some more development time. If Marco Sturm's not going to really be trusting him to play more. Well, like Khusnutdinov, Minten has bounced back really well, and has been playing some really good hockey these last 5 games. He's now has 4 points in those 5 games. He picks up an assist on Khusnutdinov's tying goal late in the third period. Found an open pocket in the slot, gets a pass from Pasternak, and doesn't get everything on the shot because he's getting knocked down as he shoots, but enough to produce a rebound that Khusnutdinov then buries. And that line had turned up the pressure in the offensive zone leading up to that too, and obviously Minten was part of that. But his ice time now going up 13, 14, 15 minutes. Last night he ends up playing a season high 16-27. He's taking big faceoffs down the stretch and winning them, most importantly. Like, yeah, Marcus Sturm had said when his ice time was down that he had started to play a little bit shy, was the way Sturm described it. He's not anymore. Like, he looks assertive out there. And, Marcus Sturm has liked him all along, talked very highly of him during training camp. And now I think you're seeing Minten get back to what Sturm was hoping he would be and how he wants him to play. Still taking care of things defensively, but like starting to make more things happen offensively too. That even before he got bumped up to the first line, that third line, the last few games, I thought had been really good. With him, Tanner Janot, and Mark Kastelik had gotten bumped up from the fourth line. Like, they've been all over the offensive zone, creating chances, and Minten, like, literally right in the middle of that. And you're right, Bridget, like, probably not going to stick on the first line, although we'll see. I mean, obviously they're kind of still searching for answers with Elias Lindholm out, but in that situation yesterday, when you need a goal, he was the guy that Marcus Sturm turned to and put in a, more elevated role, and it paid off.
Like the most elevated role, pretty much. So, yeah, and we should mention before we get any really further the update on Elias Lindholm, because I mean it wasn't much of an update, but it was something. Scott, did you want to add that?
Yeah, I mean Sturm just said the MRI confirmed what they thought it was, which they're still not going to give us the specifics, but it is going to keep him out a few weeks. Sturm said he's week to week, so that's really the only update. That could mean he's back in 3 weeks around Thanksgiving, or it could mean he's back sometime in December. But that's the loose timeline, is it's going to be at least a few weeks from the time of the injury.
I feel like week to week is the most like nondescript version of a designation of injury, because it's like, all right, well, 8 weeks is technically week to week, but I feel like that, that's 2 months. So, yeah, it wasn't a lot of information, but I guess it just gives us a little bit of okay, well, he's not coming in immediately, but also maybe it's not an ACL tear, which would be, season ending, or, something that is season ending, would not be designated as week to week. So there's at least that positive to take from the update. But yeah, sorry, I just figured it made sense to say that off the top before we talk about other combinations and stuff.
Well, if he's going to be out for an extended amount of time, it just adds more emphasis on the second line being an accountable, responsible, productive line for the Bruins. And I want to spend some time talking about them with my opening shift, because they are a combination, Zacha, Middlestat, Arvidsson, that I know I feel as though you two at different times, certainly Scott, have vocalized that it's just not a combination that has been playing very well. What are they? What's their potential? And I questioned it. It's a long season. There are ups, there are downs. So I don't want to anoint them as as a sure thing at this point. But I do have to give them their flowers, because I think they've been very good lately. And in particular, last night against the Islanders, I thought Arvidsson looked. Arvidsson at times this year has just kind of seemed like a bull in a china closet, but not very composed. He's starting to settle in. I feel like he's starting to settle in. Middlestat's performing. I think Arvidsson has points in 4 of his last 6. Middlestat has points in 5 of his last 8. Zacha's been consistent the whole way. Obviously, the big difference here, as of late, was moving Zacha to the center and Middlestat to the wing. And I just thought they looked really good last night on the island, especially on the power play. I feel like Arvidsson's, he was taking the place of Lindholm on that top unit, and they're much different players, but it almost seemed like Arvidsson was just kind of creating chaos for the penalty killers, and he is a very quick player, so not necessarily Lindholm's strength. So I felt like it was helpful in puck retrievals and whatnot. It was a different look, but I just want to give the second line some time here to talk about them, because I think they've been really good, and I was not sure that they would look really good at any point this year. I just didn't love that combination. But if they can continue to play like this and produce and be used in matchup roles, it's interesting, right? Because Zacha, Middlestat, and Arvidsson have all been floated out there by either fans or media members at some point or another throughout this offseason into the early part of the season as being trade chips for the Bruins, especially towards the trade deadline. And I think the case for Arvidsson is a lot easier to comprehend than Zacha, right? Arvidsson's on the final year of his deal, not a long-term player in Boston, so you can understand moving on from him at some point. Even Middlestat, if they choose to, and they have a partner. But it's funny, because these are 3 players that have been the most talked about when it comes to who the Bruins trade at some point, and they're playing well as a line. Maybe that helps their trade value. Maybe the Bruins like to keep, what they have. It's a fascinating story to follow.
Well, and we have an interview with Zacha that we're gonna play and react to at the end of this podcast. And Scott, it was a one-on-one Scott did with him after practice. When was it? Yesterday?
It was Monday.
So he talked to Zacha about the trade rumors and, does it bother him? And also just about the dynamic of that line. So it's about 6-minute interview that we have for you coming up in the later half. And then we'll react to just how he feels about that stuff too. But yeah, second line we were definitely very critical of in the first few weeks of the season. And I guess even before, like when we were trying to figure out what that line was going to be and try to project the kind of production they might have, we weren't really sure about it. And I think it did start to change when Zacha moved to center. I think the line dynamic, it's the same 3 guys, but it seemed to be more productive once you took Middlestat off center, put him to the left wing, and then that freed him up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. There was the combination of that swap, and also Middlestead getting healthy scratched and responding the right way. Like he's talked about it a couple times now where he's like, what am I going to do? Like pout about it or just try to be better? And it's like, yeah, that's the age old question. Like, how do you deal with being a healthy scratch or having your ice time cut or being moved down the lineup? And you would hope that everyone deals with it the way Middlestead has, which is just dig in and be better and like work your way through it. But we know there are guys who will pout their way through it and won't respond the right way. So it's been good to see that he's gone that way with it. And he's talked about how when he was younger in Buffalo, sometimes moving to the wing would help get him going. And it certainly has. And yeah, Zacha just certainly seems like for the way Sturm wants to play, Zacha is just the better fit at center. And you feel like Sturm kind of knew that early on. Like even early in camp, he was talking about how like I really like Zacha at center, but we'll see what happens. And I think the only reason he started with Zacha as the wing and Middlestead at center was probably because he didn't think Middlestead could play the wing. So he kind of felt boxed in. Now they're seeing that it can work this way. Middlestead can play the wing, and that allows you to keep Zacha at center. So, yeah, I mean, it's been 8 games since Middlestead got healthy scratched, and then they put the line back together in this formation. And I think it's inarguable they've been the Bruins' best line at 5-on-5 in that time. Like, just updating the numbers, Corsi, 55%. So that's percentage of shot attempts. Bruins are outscoring opponents 5-2 with them on the ice now. Expected goals 61.3% for the Bruins. Like scoring chances according to Natural Stat Trick 47-30 in favor of the Bruins when they're on the ice. Like it was interesting. People will hear it from Zacha, but I asked him about like maybe chemistry not really being there early in the season and how they've kind of built it up. And he says, I thought we got chances early in the season and they just weren't going in. And there's some truth to that, but I think the difference is a lot of those chances early were coming off the rush. Now this line is much more connected in terms of sustaining pressure in the offensive zone. That they're doing a lot more off the cycle. You can tell they know where each other is going to be. And that's where you see like those shot attempts and scoring chances start to pile up in your favor because you're getting second, third, fourth chances in a shift, not one and done, not having to go back, play defense. You're pinning the other team in.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I remember saying, Scott, was their extended zone time. I remember questioning. I don't know if I see this group having extended zone time. Arvidsson's too small, Middlestad's too soft, and it's just. But yeah, they have, and I feel like the Bruins as a whole, especially last night against the Islanders, and in particular in the third period, there were multiple shifts from different lines that had extended zone time to the point where the Bruins were changing out, and that's encouraging to see. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the Bruins as a team are having more offensive zone time and extended shifts in the ozone with their decor right now. I feel like their decor right now, they're not. I think they're starting to grasp Sturm's systems a little bit more naturally.
Yeah, McAvoy did say like that was part of the struggle of, I guess, leading into that 6-game losing streak, and part of the 6-game was that they didn't really feel like they're fully up to speed with it yet. Maybe they do now that we
Right.
see the results being what they are.
Right, but so you have that. You also have the return of Elias Lindholm to the blue line. You have McAvoy and Zadorov being paired together. You have Aspero in the lineup, who we've talked about in recent episodes. He brings a level of competitiveness. Like he takes good angles on forwards, especially across the blue line. He's right up in their face. Like he doesn't give them a ton of time.
Yeah,
No,
he
no.
doesn't like sag off the shooter or whoever he's defending, and he's tougher. I think he's just like
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
He's
as
in
a
the mix a lot.
so as a group, I just think the Bruins decor they've been tougher to play against. They've been more physical. They've been taking up way more time and space, and as a result, you know, the D zone coverage, their wingers are getting pucks out. They're spending less time defending, and I think that they're having more energy now to play through the neutral zone and into the offensive zone as well. They all feed each other, and I think these last two games have been. I think that Boston's looked good in a lot of these last couple of games. Obviously, Carolina was a very good opponent, down a couple of key defensemen, but that third period last night, it's a 2-2 game heading into the third. The Islanders got the go-ahead goal at the tail end, just as the Bruins power play expired, and the Bruins had to fight back and tie it. But I felt like that whole period, the majority of it, Islanders were on their heels. The Bruins. That was a game last night where you see the result and you say, "Thank God," because that's a result that the Bruins deserved to not lose that game 3-2 in regulation. They deserve at least a point, an opportunity to get two, and that's exactly how it played out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just like the emotional response or resiliency to like that go ahead goal could have been such a backbreaker because Bruins were off to a good start that period. They draw a power play. I think it was a good power play that had chances. Like that, their power play all night was creating chances. It looked good. Obviously, they got the one goal from Zacha and they finished 1 of 4 on the night, but but like when people talk about, hey, even if you don't score, create momentum, the Bruins have been doing that until the very end of that power play, where just kind of bad timing. They end up with 3 forwards in the offensive zone as Schaefer's coming out of the box, and all of a sudden it's odd man rush the other way, and Horvat. It was kind of just has too much space on the entry. I thought Zadorov sagged off a little too much, but then Zadorov did close and looked like he might get a block, but good shot by Horvat. I think you want to save from Swayman there. Even though Horvat did kind of use Zadorov as a screen a bit, but it's like, oh man, like that could have been such a backbreaker. It's like against the run of play. You feel like you're building some momentum, and then that happens. Feel like maybe last year's Bruins, that could be, lights out, end of the game there. But they bounce back. They keep fighting. Sturm makes those changes to the lines, and then leading up to the tying goal, you really had like each of those 3 lines that he went down to, which was, keeping the second line together. We mentioned Khusnutdinov, Minten, Pasternak as a line. And then the third line that he was rolling with was Geeky, Corrali, Kastelik. All 3 of those lines had like really good offensive zone shifts leading up to the tying goal. Swayman, he bounced, if you do consider that a bit of a soft goal, he bounced back, made some really big saves down the stretch, both to keep it a 3-2 game and then to keep it tied at 3-3. So, I think, and we've seen this in other games, really that Ottawa game is still the only one that stands out as that kind of looks like a team that rolled over and called it a night early. Even the other losses that this team has had, like that they fight, they don't give up, they make a game of it, and I think you saw that again Tuesday night for sure.
Yeah, two things. First of all, like they win, and you look at the standings, and they are in third in the division currently. They have played more games though, so when you go by points percentage, every single team in the Eastern Conference is 500 or above. And the Bruins are slightly above now that they won this game. They're still third from the bottom in points percentage in the Eastern Conference, which is just crazy to look at the standings the way they are right now. The Western Conference has, I think, 5 teams below 500, which just means like those bottom teams have just been getting beaten. The fact that they're the only ones with those losing records, but like Calgary, I think is just, they have 2 wins or something, 3 wins. they've won 28.6% of their games. That's rough. At least the Bruins aren't there. Because, I mean, we were talking about, at what point is it over before it even begins? And it's like, well, if you're at 28% and you have 3 wins at this point in the season, I think that's a team that's talking about Gavin McKenna and the potential of drafting him first. The Bruins have kind of walked out of that conversation after this 4-game win streak. That was, I mean, we were talking about, is this a bottom 5 team after that 6-game losing streak? And now they're back over 500, and they've been trending in the right direction too. It's like that wasn't like an ugly win. That was a good solid effort win, and I feel like all of the games on the win streak have been that. And I feel like you're finding a little bit more of the identity of the team, and for whatever reason, pushing the buttons that have been pushed, Sturm has created combinations that are working well together, and not just Khusnutdinov and Pasternak, but also the D pairs have been better. And obviously you get Hampus Lindholm back, but like Aspero wasn't someone that needed to be in the lineup. That's a addition that he made that may have changed some of the defensive side of the game, and it's different personnel in there. He scratched Lohrei 4 straight games. I don't think Montgomery would have done that. I don't think previous coaches would have put Lohrei out for as long as he has. But clearly, the very basic philosophy is if you're playing well enough to stay in, and you earned your ice time, talking about Aspero, you stay in. That's just simple, and you get rewarded for playing well, and you get punished for playing poorly. And sometimes it's out of your control that you're not going to be able to come back in because someone else is taking that time and doing a good job with it. So I don't know when Lohrei comes back in. We had talked about him maybe coming back in for Jokiharju, which I still think is who he should come back in for when he does eventually come back in. But I thought 3 games was like the max in a row that he would get scratched. And now we're at 4 games wondering if it's about to be a 5th.
Yeah, and I think, and you mentioned it, but I don't even, in my world, Aspero's not even the first guy that's coming out, right? And you just kind of hit on it too, Bridget. But I think it also just coincides with they haven't lost, right? So I mean, if you sprinkle a loss in over these last couple of games, maybe he gets put back in, right? But this lineup's been winning, and as I said, they've been defending hard. They've been defending well. Go back and watch that game last night. I mean, regardless of the pair out there, whether it was Lindholm and Peak, Zadorov, McAvoy, Aspero, Jokiharju, and I'm not trying to, unbalance the seesaw here, but it really is more so Aspero in this category when I talk about eliminating time and space and challenging. Like there's something about the way he skates alongside, and he's a assertive player. They're taking away time and space, and I'm watching them out there as a unit, and I'm like, yeah, I know what Lohrei does well, but against this Islanders team, I can very much see them taking advantage of him, like down low and in corners on forechecks. And this Bruins team, they're handling the Islanders well. Like they just were. But I talked to you guys after, I think it was after the Avalanche game. The Bruins had the Senators, they had the Islanders, they had the Sabres, and then they had a game with Carolina. But I remember saying the Bruins can dictate how this month wants to end. They could either end this month, 500 or better, or they could end the month in the Gavin McKenna category. Their season, I felt, was on the line over the last couple of weeks, because if you don't win 5 of 6 or 4 in a row after losing 6 straight, I mean, it's crazy. Think about it. We're talking about a team that's won 5 of 6, 4 in a row. And you just mentioned it, Bridget. They are still technically second last in the Atlantic Division on points percentage and third last in the East. Now, again, these teams have played so few games that these point percentages change drastically with they're all so close. So it's, if the Bruins rattle off 2 of the next 3, you're going to start to see that they aren't that low on points percentage anymore. But point being is, this is how well they've had to play after that 6-game losing streak just to salvage an opportunity at their season becoming a real season. Because otherwise, Bridget, you're right. We would be talking about who do we want, Gavin McKenna or Keaton Vieroff, if the ping pong balls go the Bruins' way.
It really is crazy to look at the standings, and just how much better the Eastern Conference looks than the West. I know Bridget highlighted like every team in the East 500 or better on points percentage. It's also the goal differentials. Like there are 5 teams in the West that are minus 11 or worse. So, goal differential like really piling up against them in addition to wins and losses. And then you look at the East and it's like it's actually the Florida Panthers that have the worst goal differential and it's minus 7. And like everyone else is like minus 3 or better. Like the Bruins are minus 2 now in overall goal differential. So it's not just like the wins and losses that are just kind of flat and even across the board in the East. It's also like no one's really getting beat up where their goal differential is really bad, but they're finding a way to rack up some overtime points or something, or this team has a really good goal differential, but they've had, some tough losses. Like it's just everyone is so stacked together. But the Bruins being able to string together this stretch allows them to stay in that mix. You're right. It's like they could have. I think I even wrote a column along those lines of like it felt like the season was already on the brink, and you could even hear it in guys' voices, like when Morgan Geeky's talking about, like we saw how this goes if we don't turn it around, and and it can pile up quickly, and they were right, like it, especially with everyone else kind of hanging around 500 or better. Like if they had continued to slide, well, then you become the outlier where you're down at the bottom all by yourself, and like everyone is several games and points above you. So, it's been huge, and I think it's like it's also a reminder that you don't have to be making any like big sweeping decisions on what you're gonna do trade wise, or how you're gonna set yourself up for next year. Like you don't have to be doing that yet. And this also buys you that time. Like you can give this time and see how this season goes, and see what kind of season it's going to be. Whereas if you start falling out of it pretty quick, those conversations about trading guys and turning the page to next year, those start pretty early. And like it's just a miserable experience. Like for all of us, it's like you don't want to watch that. You don't want to see that start in November. Like this may very well still turn into a season where they end up selling, and your Zachas and Middlestads and Arvidssons and Peak and whoever get shipped out, and you go back to accruing draft capital and prospects.
Right.
But like you don't have to do that right now. So, let's like it's good to have some actual games to be invested in and to enjoy, and like I don't know, see what happens. Maybe you start winning more than you thought you were gonna.
That's exactly it. Like, we had such a long off season. I think it was like 5 months for the Bruins, right? And we finally get back into the season, and they rattle off 3 quick wins, which was nice. But then you lose 6 straight, 7 of 8, and I was just thinking to myself, can the season not end already? Like, can you said it, Scott? They very well. I mentioned that they've avoided the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes, right? But, I don't want to talk about that now. If it naturally is the case that ends up being the discussion later in the year, okay, fine. I'd rather talk about that stuff for 2 or 3 months than for 6 months. And after that Ottawa game, and it just sucked because like you really did feel like they should have gotten, I'll say, a couple more points out of that 6-game losing streak than 0, right? Because all those games were lost in regulation. But then you have the absolute stinker where you did deserve nothing against Ottawa. And all right, then you go down 2-0 to the Islanders the next night, right? And it's like, oh shit, here we go. It's like that meme, the Joker from the Dark Knight. And then the Elias Lindholm power play goal gets them going again. They find a way to come back in that game. The Buffalo game's the Buffalo game. Good win against Carolina. Good win last night. And again, where they are now is a team that won 3 straight, lost 6 straight. and then has now won 5 of 6, with one of those losses being a blowout. But it's kind of like, okay, so let's figure out which team that they are here, right? let's not overreact to this 5 of 6 and 4-game win streak. But I will say that that 6-game losing streak wasn't them getting blown out, right? Like, that's kind of the other part of this, is like, okay, this win streak that they're on right now has brought them back to kind of a level playing field with everybody else. But it also makes you think, fuck, if they just got a couple of points, if they just got 2 or 3 of 12 points in that losing streak, how much better off they would be right now, how much even more cushion that they'd have right now. That wasn't the case, and so here we are.
I think, Scott, the conversation, I mean, it wasn't even just like fans bringing up the conversation about being sellers so early on. I think it was after the loss to the Ducks, 7-5 loss to the Ducks, was when we talked to Geeky and McAvoy, and they brought it up on their own about not wanting to see their friends get shipped off, and having that almost like PTSD from last season, just knowing how bad that feeling was. And Geeky was, he brought it up on his own. And you felt like it was a real legitimate fear at that point, because they were below 500. They weren't, they were at the end of that 6-game losing streak, which at the time, obviously, we didn't know, could have kept going. And so now you hear a difference in the conversation, because when you listen to what Zacha said when we played at the end, he's talking about being buyers, right? Like, this is a different kind of conversation than they were having two or 3 weeks ago during the middle of that 6-game losing streak. So, that we at least get to maybe have a conversation at some point in this season. Should they be this or should they be that? Like, that's a fun thing to talk about, right, guys? Like, maybe we'll get to talk about it. Who knows?
It'll be a quick conversation here. They should not be buyers unless it's as Scott will put it, a player with term and whatnot that could be part of your future. But yeah, hey, you're right though, Bridget. Like, it's not, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing about that though is, like, you can like just listen to the words of Bruins management themselves, because Cam Neely said they're going to look for offensive help during the season. And it's like, I don't really know why he felt the need to say that. Maybe, I don't know, you're trying to convince fans or maybe even your own players that, you're always looking to improve the team. But yeah, it's like, well, they're the ones who planted that seed. Cam Neely already said it, so like it's out there. You're right. Like, they are absolutely not going to be in a position to buy, like, on a rental basis or anything short term. But we know they do have to add more offense at some point, and you hope some of these prospects again have coming up in the next couple of years can help with that. But yeah, if there is an opportunity to add, an already established player who's in his 20s that either is signed longer term already or that you can sign to an extension, like, you have to explore that. But I thought that would be for, maybe one of these pending 2026 free agents. You do a Elias Lindholm type trade where you have the extension in place, but all those guys are just re-signing with their own teams. So, like, I don't think it's going to be an option, but you never know. Like, maybe something presents itself that we're not really thinking of at the moment. But it seems the idea of this team buying does seem a little far-fetched.
Yeah, I mean, one team, and Bridget mentioned them earlier. I think it was Bridget, is Calgary. They'll be an interesting one to follow. I mean, if they really are a team that's just out of it, and you have a chance to get Verhoff or Gavin McKenna, I mean, Rasmus Anderson can get you a lot. Nazem Kadri can get them a lot. Or even in that situation, maybe if they're that bad with those guys, maybe they say, hey, you know what? Maybe we'll try to re-sign Anderson and keep Kadri, and they can be here when Verhoff or Gavin McKenna show up. But in any event, last night's game, there was a play I wanted to talk about quickly before we get to the Zacha interview, and that was the ruckus behind the Boston goal. Zadorov has been playing great. I love the elements of physicality and intensity, intimidation that he brings, the size, and he's also just been, more importantly, he's been playing well. if I was an Islanders fan last night, I would not have been too happy about the liberties he took on Matthew Schaefer. As a hockey fan, I think it's as long as Schaefer's okay, I find it all wildly entertaining. Although that was a dangerous play and not a play that was a sure thing that Schaefer was going to be okay. The Islanders rightfully jumped in there and caused a bit of a scene behind that. Some punches being thrown and whatnot. What do you guys make of that play in particular? It's good to see both teams emotionally and physically invested like that. But probably not a play. Definitely not a play that you like to see on a young player in Schaefer, because the stick was high and there was some force there.
Well, Schaefer was like on his knees, kind of like he wasn't even fully standing up, and he just ate like Zadorov's cross check right in the face. And the reaction.
In fairness, like I think it ultimately was really only his gloves that made contact. I don't think he actually got him with the stick.
Fair.
So I think Islanders fans did have a pretty negative reaction to this. I saw it all over Twitter this morning, and I saw Zadorov's Instagram story where his entire DMs are I'm not going to read them, but like this is Zadorov's DMs just flooded with Islanders fans saying, oh, don't do that to Schaefer, you scumbag, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not going to read it because most of them are just pure profanity, but he put his own little caption on it, and it says, "Get out of my DMs and go to the rink and cheer for your team. That place was library tonight," which I can hear in his accent, and it's kind of funny.
Yeah, he made a comment like that post game too in his media scrum where he was like, yeah, I think we did a good job creating our own energy because the crowd was really quiet, like clearly taking. And yeah, I mean, you could see that on TV, like well into the first period, there were a ton of empty seats in the lower bowl there at a UBS arena. So yeah, he's I think Zadorov's quickly rocketing up the rankings of most hated Islanders opponents, doing a lot of work all in one night. So yeah, I mean, it was funny because Zadorov got a penalty earlier in the game. Second game in a row, he got a penalty for literally just being stronger than the guy he was battling against. Like,
he got called for a trip on Lee.
He knocks down Anders Lee clean and somehow gets called for tripping. I was like,
no stick,
what a bizarre call.
No feet in the skates, no stick in the skates, just stronger. Just Lee falls down, and then they had animosity the rest of the game because of it.
And it's almost like Zadorov decided, like, oh, you want me to take a penalty? I'll give you a penalty. And I think earned all 6 minutes of penalties that he got on that play because it was an initial interference. Schaefer's driving to the net. Zadorov knocks him down. Like, I think that was just classic 2-minute interference. And then Schaefer like grabs Zadorov's stick, which is I think what prompted Zadorov to then
punch him right in the face.
Basically, yeah. Like, my guess is like the thought process for Zadorov was like probably realizes it's Schaefer, this 18-year-old kid who's kind of taken the league by storm, like earning all this praise and deservedly so because he's off to a great start.
He is so good.
It's
such a good player.
You know what I keep thinking is like, just to call ourselves out, like going back to the summer where we were pre-draft, pre-lottery, when we were like, what if the Bruins get the number 1 pick? And we were like, well, I think you could justify taking the center and Michael Misa. Like, they seem close enough. And I still think Michael Misa is going to be a really good player. But it's like now just abundantly clear why Matthew Schaefer was number 1. And there probably wasn't as much doubt as people tried to make it seem.
But to be fair, like, and the biggest reason I think we didn't, I think to an extent we didn't know what we didn't know because of a lack of exposure.
Yeah,
exactly. Like if I saw him play 70 games last year in the OHL, like it was like he was done it by World Juniors, right? Even before, right. So
he got injured in the second game at World Juniors.
That kid, and you know what's funny watching him is his skating. He's such a powerful, fast skater. He just blows by guys, but it's effortless. He doesn't even look like he's exerting much energy. You're watching him and you're like when you watch McDavid, you can see how quick his strides are. And like it's like, wow, no wonder he's the fastest skater in the world. But then you watch Schaefer like on replays, and you're really paying attention because like I want to study how this kid skates like that. I want to see what makes him tick this way, and you can't really see much of anything because it's so smooth and effortless. But he's blowing by everybody.
And it's also like the agility and the start-stop ability. Like the movie puts on Hampus Lindholm in overtime, where like Hampus Lindholm initially keeps up with him while Schaefer's rushing down the right wing at speed. But then it's when Schaefer slows down and kind of puts the stutter step on him, and then is just able to get back up to speed quicker than Hampus Lindholm, who is also a really good skater. But like I saw Billy Jaffe kind of compare his skating to Lane Hudson, and like it's a little different, but what Billy Jaffe is mentioning is like the bow-legged stance, and it's like you do see some of that where it's like he just kind of moves different than a lot of players. But anyways, bring this back to Zadorov. I think I'm not sure Zadorov initially would have like thrown that punch, but I think realizing that it was Schaefer probably saw an opportunity to start something, to kind of give the kid the hot shot, a little comeuppance, fire everyone up. Like I think Zadorov wanted to turn up the temperature on the game there.
Yep.
And certainly did.
He loves to give people their welcome to the NHL moments. Like, this is what what you have to deal with in this league because you're still young and you maybe haven't had this happen to you yet. And he seems to be the one who likes to teach that lesson to people. I think he even did it to like Fabian Lysell in that scrimmage that they had last year in Providence. Lysell was on the opposite team during the black and white scrimmage or whatever it is, and just nailed them like away from the play, just to be like, yeah, if you're gonna want to just dump a puck in, like you might have to deal with some massive 6'6" guy just running you. But yeah, I think he likes to give people a little wake up call sometimes.
Yeah, and you know what? It's obviously you can understand why Islanders fans don't like that, and Islanders players don't like that. It's totally fair for them to feel that way, but at the same time, to Scott's point, it raised the temperature in the game, and I think that hockey can use that in regular season play. Sometimes the games get a little bit, 1 of 82 out there, and it's good. It's good when you have nights where that's clearly not the case. And anyway, so it was a good win for the Bruins. I mean, again, I found myself watching the end of that game. They're down 3-2, and I'm like, because again, they did enter that game, I believe, with the lowest winning percentage in the East, and I'm like, this team's playing well right now. They deserve to not be losing in regulation, but this could be one of those damaging losses where you're playing better than what your record says. But to their credit, they were able to finally fully come back and come from behind and win one of these games in an emotional, uplifting way. And hopefully this translates in a very big divisional game. Now you got 5 straight divisional games. You got Ottawa twice, Toronto twice, and Montreal. So I'm not saying they clean the board here and go 5-0, but you're going to want to leave this 5 games stretch with at least a winning record, or 500 at worst, 2-1, probably worst case is what you want to do here. So do you guys have any final thoughts before we go to the Zacha interview?
One last thing on that Zadorov Instagram post. One of the comments on that screenshot was from a user named Chris Kelly. And when I retweeted it, someone had replied, was like, geez, keep it on the bench, Chris Kelly.
That's funny.
I didn't even look at the names of the people. I just noticed that, like, obviously some of the stuff there is in Russian, but yeah, I didn't read the names.
It's funny too, because it was like one of the more vile ones. Like I'm not even gonna look it up. I know I probably can't say it on air, but it was like the idea of like Chris Kelly just like jumping in the comments section and ripping Zadorov.
It says, "You a effing scumbag, lil B word." So that was what.
Was there a comment from somebody named Jake DeBrusk lover or something like that on there? I thought I saw like a Jake DeBrusk fan account comment too, which was funny.
Jake DeBrusk Glazer. I don't know. And then some of these are just straight up Russian.
There you go. Well, I'm curious to see what you and Zacha talked about, Scott. So, Bridget, if you don't mind queuing it up, we can give that a quick listen and talk about it afterwards.
Been working for your line these last couple weeks.
Yeah, I think we started to understand each other when we're on the ice. You need a couple of games with new players, and I think we're starting to click in. I think we're a good offensive line playing playing important minutes, and I think we're starting to show that we can play that against the top lines. And RV's one of the fastest players I played with, can win battles, can make plays. Mitzi, same thing. He's really skilled with the puck, but we also know how to play a two-way game, which is important. So I think it's just starting to come together, and we're more comfortable playing every game and every practice with each other.
Obviously, that chemistry maybe wasn't really there early on. Casey gets healthy scratched. They move you to the middle. How much did you guys kind of embrace the challenge of trying to make it work, even if it didn't right away?
Yeah, I think we had some a little bit of bad luck. I think in the beginning, I still think that we didn't have bad games to start, but it was just not going our way, and I think we kind of stuck with it. Started battling more, winning battles, and it just clicked more and more. That I think we, even before we had the goals and assists, I think we had chances and outplayed the other line, and that started to pay off if you do it more often than not.
With Elias out now, do you kind of put anything extra on yourself, or how do you kind of look at that?
Yeah, I think he's a huge part of our team, and I think everyone has to step up a little bit, especially centermen. I take it again on me to try to help the team as much as I can to win, and hopefully he comes back soon. So that's a big piece of our puzzle what we have here. But we have a lot of good players who can step up. Like Kuzi played really good last game too in the center, and we just have to have guys to play a little bit more minutes and embrace it and play great games for us to win, and hopefully he comes back soon.
Individually, the points have certainly been there for you early on. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about where your game's at?
I think I think we're still building. I think I'm getting more comfortable just creating more chances every game. I think it's getting better with that too. Even if you don't have a point or not, it's more important to kind of outplay the other line and create chances every game. And I think we do that. So I'm happy, especially with that our game's getting to the point that we're outplaying the other lines and creating a lot every game. And the points come and go every year. But if you keep creating, it stays there more often than not. So I'm happy with where our line's building it and where I'm building my game towards, and hopefully we can keep doing that.
Marco's talked about even using your line a bit as a matchup line against top lines. How much do you kind of embrace that challenge?
No, I love that. I think that's one of the parts that I really love about being centerman, playing against the top lines, being kind of being able to play against top lines, but also perform, have some goals as line, outplay them, being plus in the game. And that's one of the things I always wanted to be, an NHL player that can play against top lines but also perform well, and getting the chance like we did the last couple of games. I think it's exciting for us as a line, and we're excited for the challenge.
How do you handle it when your name pops up in trade rumors, which has happened again here recently?
Luckily I don't have any social media, so I'm more getting it set to me from my family or my wife or somebody. I don't really have any social media or look up my name that much, so if it was something serious it would happen. If it's not, it's been trade rumors when I was in Jersey, when I was here, even last year. So I think that's something that's part of hockey. There's always going to be somebody who's going to say stuff. You just have to ignore it and do it the best you can. I think I'm so excited to be part of the Bruins organization, and I haven't heard anything from anybody there, so I just think rumors are always going to be there, and I just have to keep playing and doing my thing here.
Do you handle it differently now than maybe when you were younger? Have you kind of learned things?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's part of the reasons why I kind of deleted all my social media when I was in Jersey. It was a full year in Jersey that was just trade rumors, and when you're on those platforms, you see it way more often. So I just decided to delete it, and since then, the only thing you see, you have to look up yourself. So that kind of helped me too, that I don't have to every day see something that when you open some apps, you would see yourself in the pictures and everything being traded. So that's something that helped me a lot. And then just staying in the moment. I think you never know what's going to happen in the league. Players get traded all the time, but it's what you do for a team and who it's part of a business too. But I think being focused on that, it's the worst thing you can do as a person, and you just look ahead all the time and just staying in the moment.
Did it get any more challenging to not think about it after last season when so many guys did get traded out of here?
Yeah, I mean that was one of the things that a lot of core players get traded to. So usually core players you kind of assume a little bit, but if you don't, that's the part. If the team's performing well, you're doing great. You don't expect that many guys being traded, and when you don't have a great season, you're kind of looking, okay, what are the guys who could be traded, and it's also a little bit more struggly there, especially last year when we were not being good enough, or my injuries, even we weren't good. You're always looking at it a little bit more because the chances are higher than being sellers compared to buyers before playoffs. So, but again, it's something you can't control. Guys, we don't have much say, and it's all these decisions are not made by us. So it's something that you want to be on a winning team, so you don't have to deal about it as much. And hopefully we can get to the point this year that we will be buyers before playoffs, and nobody has to worry about that at all.
All right, thanks a lot, Pat.
No problem.
Well, I think that, right away it just sounds like he really is handling this the best way possible. I mean, there's no better way to handle it than to not be on social media, to just focus on the here and now. And he's right when saying if the team's playing well, then that mitigates a lot of concern, because players just aren't being traded for the hell of it if you're playing well, especially when you're an important member like Pavel Zacha. The other elephant in the room is that obviously the trade rumors in New Jersey, it turned out to be a little bit more than just rumors for him. So
Yeah.
it does kind of, I mean, there's a reason why he's in Boston. So
But it
even
worked
more
out
reason
for
why
him.
it's probably challenging for him to kind of ignore it, because he does know that, hey, it can become more than rumors. But right now, it does seem like that was just kind of hearsay. I don't think the Bruins are really planning on moving him unless the team goes to shit and they can just get something for him. That's my read right now.
Well, I mean, I guess if he did hear about the rumors, at least it was like very flattering that it was, it needs to be a really high price. Like they think highly of you at the very least. But I mean, it sounds like he doesn't really pay much attention. Yeah, he's one of the few guys who doesn't have social media. So you'll never, see like what we were just talking about with Zadorov, like interactions like that. Like he's just off the grid and quiet. And I think Sidney Crosby's like this too. It's just like, don't even get involved with it. I'm sure he has a little bit more peace than somebody who goes online and see, like, imagine if you opened your Twitter, Brian or Scott, and you just see like memes about how much you like suck or whatever, just like, or about you being a jerk, or just
that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen to you guys after every podcast.
I haven't seen any, at least. I haven't seen anybody chirping me yet, which
damn. I guess that's only me.
I mean, sometimes they're in the YouTube comments, but not Twitter yet. So
yeah.
Go ahead, Scott.
I was gonna say one thing like worth pointing out, because I don't remember if we touched on it or not, but obviously there was like that wave of kind of initial reports, specifically about the Vancouver Canucks interest in Zacha. It started with Rick Dhaliwal, who's local reporter out in Vancouver, and then Elliot Friedman basically confirmed that, added to it on Hockey Night in Canada. Since then, Pierre LeBrun in particular has like really kind of pushed back on that, not calling out any of his fellow reporters, but did say, I think on TSN, and then wrote it in The Athletic, that the Bruins don't intend to move Zacha and actually, quote, view him as an important part of the core as they continue to transition and retool their roster. So the way I kind of see that, and not as a reporter, I don't like to make assumptions about like people's sources, but it seems pretty clear to me that like the initial reporting was from the Vancouver side of things, of like, we're looking for a center, we want to do something. And this pushback is probably from the Boston side, where it's, okay, well, someone can be interested in him and call us about him, but like, we're not moving him. So there's probably a little bit of posturing from both sides there. Like, if you're the Bruins, you're not gonna publicly acknowledge that you're considering, trading a core player this early in the season, obviously. But yeah, Brian, I think like what you said is right. Is like, if someone wants to completely blow them away, like, sure, you got to listen. And I've said that before too. But there's just no reason for the Bruins to like be actively shopping Pavel Zacha right now. Again, by bouncing back, going on this win streak, hanging in there, if you can keep doing that, like you push these decisions and these discussions off to closer to the trade deadline. And then you evaluate where you are then and who you're going to move and like what you can get for them. Pavel Zacha's value, barring like a significant injury, isn't going to fluctuate dramatically between now and then. If anything, if he keeps playing well, you'll get more teams interested and maybe the price even goes up. But like, he's a valuable player. He's versatile. As long as he's healthy, he's going to have value, even if he doesn't keep producing at, nearly a point per game clip like he has so far.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I could see him being like a key piece, but I mean, people will say, well, they drafted Higgins. Higgins is a center. How quickly can Higgins become a 2C? Like, that's the thing. Like, you're going to, as soon as Higgins comes up, there's going to be conversation about, should they have kept Zacha? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just because those two might be playing similar spots, but Zacha can also play wing. So that's one of the things that makes him so valuable is that, sure, some teams probably are looking for a center. Maybe other teams are looking for a wing. Well, you drives the value up. More teams are interested in him to fit a different spot. But I actually really like the player and hope that he does stay and that he, we're talking about an extension rather than somebody picking him up and signing him, because he's been on a great contract here. Don't know what the next extension would look like if they were to get him one, but I don't know. I think he's been worth what they've had him on for the deal, and that he was a good pickup from New Jersey when they got him.
Yeah, I feel like he'd be in line for a $2 million raise, probably. I mean,
certainly would be. The contract would have to go up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But so right now, I mean, the way I look at this situation, especially with him, but in general, right? It depends on, how bad is the season going, right? Because even if the Bruins are a playoff team nearing the trade deadline, I already said I'm not buying unless it's a long-term thing, and I would be willing to still do a soft sell. Like I, if they're nearing a playoff spot or they're just holding on to one, like would I be willing to sell high on Victor Arvidsson and bring up somebody from Providence for the maybe. I mean maybe why not, right? I mean he's under term for beyond this year. He's an older player. But like Zacha, the question I ask myself is, can this player be part of the solution, right? And when you look at Zacha, he'll be 30 years old when his contract's up. So you can lock him up, through 35, 36 years old, and he can still very much be a part of the solution of the James Higgins era with McAvoy and Pasternak and whatnot. Somebody like Arvidsson, that's not the case, right? So I'm easier to move on from him. But just quickly on Zacha, he's on pace right now, and I know we're barely into November, so point paces are kind of skewed at this point in the season. But he's on pace for 71 points right now, and his season high his career high is 59. I think he set that back in 23-24 during the Centennial season. So if he can give you 65 points, 60 to 70 points at a $4.75 million cap hit this year and next, and then you lock him up from age 30 to 35, 36 at like whatever, 6.5, whatever it ends up being. I would like to see him become more of a goal scorer if that's possible. Like I don't think he's ever reached 20 goals. He's a good assist man, but it would be nice to see him be like a 25 goal guy. That's just a benchmark in my mind. I feel like he's capable of doing. He gets plenty of grade A's. Like last night against the Islanders, he roofed that under the crossbar. But those are the types of shots all the time you see Zacha get, where he kind of has like a great scoring chance, but he either just crushes and dents the crossbar, or the goalie makes an amazing save or whatever. I would like to see his goal scoring tick up a little bit. But I'm with you, Bridget. I think he can be part of the solution, and I would like to see him extended, unless, and like Scott said, the Bruins just get a cannot refuse offer for him.
Yeah, and I know Bridget has to go, but just two very quick final thoughts from me. Like, I think there's a reasonable debate to be had about where the Bruins are. Does it make sense to extend Zacha when he'll be 30 when his next contract starts. But again, that's just not a decision you have to make right now. Like, he's not even eligible to sign an extension until July 1st because he has another year after this. Also, Brian, since you brought up points pace, jogged my mind. Charlie McAvoy, 7 points in his last 7 games, now up to 11 on the season, which is tied for third among all defensemen. Just seems like that's happened really quietly after everyone freaking out over his start.
Well, what does that coincide with though? For a lot of that,
Yeah, playing with Zadorov, having better partner.
Exactly. I mean, it helps free him up a little bit. All right. Well, that'll do it for us. Thank you all very much for listening. We'll talk to you on Friday. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.